Presidents from George W. Bush to Joe Biden frequently stand at podiums draped in words like freedom and peace, promising global stability. Yet over the past 250 years, the United States has fought in more than 230 armed conflicts. Since 2001 alone, the post-9/11 wars have cost roughly $8 trillion and millions of lives. The sheer scale of these conflicts has triggered massive domestic resistance, with citizens gathering in the thousands to protest the human and financial toll. If everyday Americans are begging for peace, and these campaigns drain the national treasury, we have to ask why the system remains locked in a state of perpetual combat. To find the answer, we have to look past the diplomatic press conferences and examine the balance sheets. Modern warfare functions as a foundational pillar of the American economy. Before 1914, the United States was a growing industrial power, but it remained officially neutral. Its factories were busy producing consumer goods, largely disconnected from the rising tensions in Europe. This chart shows the impact of supplying World War I. Between 1913 and 1916, American exports surged from $500 million to $5.5 billion. The pattern repeated in World War II. As production increased, unemployment crashed from 14% to 1.9%. This economic rescue was built on a massive physical scale. Huge hangars and assembly lines transformed the landscape, creating a permanent infrastructure dedicated to high-volume military production. By 1945, the war had achieved what peacetime policy could not. It ended the Great Depression and left the United States holding 70% of the world's gold. Combat had been proven to be a highly effective remedy for economic stagnation. In 1961, President Dwight D. Eisenhower used his farewell address to issue a stark warning. He cautioned the American public against the rising power of what he called the military-industrial complex. This complex operates as a closed-loop triangle, linking three distinct centers of power: Congress, the military, and private defense contractors. At the first node, we find the defense companies. Following the World Wars, the number of private firms manufacturing military hardware grew to over 100,000 separate contractors. The profitability of this sector is immense. Between 2002 and 2020, 55% of the $14.2 trillion defense budget, more than $7 trillion, flowed directly into the bank accounts of these private firms. Because over half of all defense spending is funneled to these contractors, geopolitical crises overseas have become a primary revenue driver for the private sector. To maintain these budgets, contractors influence the second node, the politicians. Since 2002, defense companies have funneled approximately $285 million in campaign contributions to lawmakers who approve military spending. The incentive is often personal. Many of the politicians who sit on defense committees hold individual stocks in the very companies receiving government contracts, allowing their private portfolios to grow as they approve higher budgets. The third node is the military itself. Every new deployment creates an immediate demand for high-tech resupply, from ammunition to the intricate internal systems found in modern stealth fighter jets. The system functions even without direct American involvement. The U.S. currently controls 42. This creates a self-sustaining financial machine that finds its most lucrative opportunities whenever global stability begins to falter. Proponents of the system argue that this massive spending benefits the average citizen by acting as a jobs program for the American middle class. However, data shows military spending is a poor job creator. Every $1 million invested in defense creates only 6 jobs, roughly half of what the same investment produces in healthcare and a third of what it produces in education. While defense contractors secure record profits, the real-world impact of their product is seen here. In residential combat zones, continuous conflict leaves a trail of fire and destroyed infrastructure in its wake. This system prioritizes the concentration of wealth within the defense hierarchy, often at the direct expense of domestic infrastructure and public services. Conflict today, we can look past the rhetoric of protecting human rights or spreading democracy. These geopolitical hotspots operate as active financial marketplaces. Every artillery shell fired or missile launched represents a direct transfer of taxpayer wealth into corporate revenue. Global stability will likely remain out of reach as long as the world's most powerful decision-makers are financially incentivized to maintain